How will the balance of power evolve in Black Sea region in the context of closeness between President Vladimir Putin and Recep Erdogan?
Well, I think with the increasing emphasis of the U.S. and regional partners on peace and security in the Black Sea, we're likely to enter a period of relative stasis. The real question is how long Putin can sustain this over time. He is in Syria. He is in forces in Ukraine. He has to be concerned about Belarus. They're in the Caucasus. So the Russians are in a lot of places, and their economy is not in great shape. And so the question is can they sustain that over time against a serious effort by the United States and its allies to protect their own interests? And my guess is no, they can't.
How do you see the relation between U.S. and Russia in the next 5 years?
Well, I think the future relationship between the United States and the Russians is largely in the hands of the Russians. If you look at how President Trump addresses foreign policy, and with all the people that the United States are in competition with, whether it's the Iranians or the Koreans or the Chinese and the Russians, he always offers an off-ramp. I mean, Trump says, look, we don't have to be in tension with each other. We can get along. And some people interpret that as him being soft, or particularly on Russia. But you have to look at what the president says after that, which he says, look, we can get along if you respect all my interests. And so, the United States has been pretty insistent that the Russian destabilizing influence, whether it's in the Ukraine or Georgia or elsewhere in Western Europe or in the Middle East, that has to stop. And if it stops, then there could be a productive, constructive relationship between Russia and the West. That all depends really on Putin changing the foreign policy of Russia. So could there be a more peaceful relationship, more constructive relationship? And the answer is yes, but that's really kind of dependent on the Russians.
Okay. I have another question. How do you comment the decision of President Trump to charge import of steel and aluminum?
I think it's unfortunate. I understand why the president's doing that. If you look at kind of traditionally in American, the way Americans approach economics and look at tariffs, there's kind of three reasons for doing tariffs. One is, this goes back to when America was created. When Alexander Hamilton wrote the first report on manufacturing in America, he said, you can have tariffs to raise money, right? You can have tariffs to protect your domestic industries for national security purposes. And you can have tariffs to drive reciprocity, right? Better trading relations with your neighbors. That's how Americans have thought about tariffs. We still do. Obviously, we're not raising tariffs to raise money. The president talks a lot about, well, we raise these tariffs because we need to rebuild American industry. I don't think that's really true. It's not really about national security. What the president's really concerned about is reciprocity, better trading relations. The problem with using tariffs to drive better trade relations, it's kind of like getting people's attention by tossing a hand grenade. Might work, but somebody also might get hurt. So I think I'm concerned about how the tariffs are implemented. Implementation might not just hurt our friends, but it could also hurt some U.S. industries as well. For example, many American industries, our steel industries are kind of very specific niche kind of industrial capabilities, and they're very dependent on other countries building things, and then we provide kind of niche steel products to them. So if we're sanctioning somebody else's product, right, we're not only not going to build new steel mills in the United States, that these niche companies that produce products, they're going to go out of business. So I think there are concerns in the U.S. about how the president's using tariffs. We understand that he wants to drive better trade relations and he wants better reciprocity in trade deals, but I think in the actual implementation, if it's not careful, it'll be detrimental to American economy, and it'll be detrimental for the economy of our friends and allies as well. So we're hopeful that as the administration moves forward on this, they're judicious and thoughtful in what they do.